Welcome to Conexão Bett. This is one of the spaces of Bett Brazil dedicated to connect you with the educational community and to bring relevant topics about the future of education. If it's your first time here on the channel, please subscribe and activate the notifications to follow our contents. Today's subject of Conexão Bett is the trends that are redesigning education, generative artificial intelligence, and microcertifications. And to discuss the matter with us, we invited Ryan Lufkin, VP of Global Strategy at Instructure. With more than 20 years dedicated to elaborate strategy, marketing, and product marketing experience in the educational technology space, Ryan is passionate about what he does. Hello, Ryan. Welcome to Conexão Bett. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation.
Hello, Valeria. Thanks for having me. Uh-oh.
Great. Yeah, I'm hearing you. It's okay.
For some reason, my Slack was having an issue, so
yeah.
Okay. I apologize. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you having me on the call today.
Yes. First of all, are you really a passionate person about what we do?
I am. I think this truly is the most transformative time in the history of education. I think, post-COVID, the rapid adoption of technology, AI now coming on the scene, things like micro-credentials and micro-certifications changing how we learn. I think we're really in a lifelong learning mode now in a way that we maybe have never been. And so I really am passionate about it. I've been all over the world talking about it with our Instructure customers and education leadership as a whole, and I really am excited about it.
Great. So to start, enlighten us. What are micro-credentials and how do they help professionals upskill or reskill themselves to stay competitive in the job market?
Yeah, I mean, micro-credentials are often called by different names, micro-certifications, sometimes certificates, sometimes badging. And really what it is more bite-sized learning experiences that let us, for a lot of us, I've taken a certificate in data-driven marketing and in lead development. And there are those things that allowed us through our career to either upskill or reskill, or even prepare us for encore careers. Many of us, we've done some work with the Stanford Longevity Project, and they're really looking at the fact that we're living longer lives. And what does that mean for everything finances to health to education? And that's what we're seeing is in many cases, we will need to learn a new set of skills for another career. But they've also become a more time sensitive, more affordable way for students to find jobs. So a couple of years ago, we saw Google come out and say, you know what, we're going to suspend our requirement for a bachelor's degree. And we're going to start accepting certificates in coding and other skills necessary. And so that's kind of signaled a shift in the market that maybe in some jobs no longer need a full bachelor's degree. You can do certificates really designed to focus on a certain set of skills.
Mm-hmm. And in your point of view, how can educational institutions and the industry stakeholder as a whole collaborate to develop micro-credentials that are relevant, up-to-date, and responsive to the needs of the job market? It's a challenge, right?
It is a challenge. And what we've seen is kind of a growing skills gap that's been identified by employers. A lot of employers say, hey, the students that are graduating with a bachelor's degree or even master's degrees don't necessarily have the skills that we need for our employees. And in a lot of cases, that's led to partnerships between individual companies and individual colleges or universities to develop programs specifically for their needs. In fact, there's a Utah State University here in the United States has partnered with Lockheed Martin, which is an aerospatial manufacturing firm, to develop a certificate program that's designed specifically for rocket science, right? And those very specific programs. What we, I think, see for the future, though, is that we will move towards a broader set of skills. So as we break, our learning journey down into those component skills, and we show proof of skill as we develop throughout the process of our learning journey, those can be demonstrated in different ways. Badges or certificate programs can be then demonstrated. And I think what that allows an employer to do is then search for specific skill sets that they need that they'll apply to their different jobs. And so moving from that individual, partnerships of one institution, one-to-one, but that one-to-many approach, I think, is what we see in the future, where we agree on a standardized set of skills, employers all buy into that, and then college universities develop programs for those individual skill sets. And I think that's where we're headed in the future. And we certainly are starting to see that build out now.
Let me be a little provocative now. Do you think that this model, this new way to learn fragmentedly, it could jeopardize the comprehension of the issues that we learn, or no? And I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
No. In fact, we talked a little bit about this at InstructureCon, our annual conference. And one of the risks is, a traditional bachelor's degree is designed to develop a set of skills, both hard skills necessary for a job, but those soft skills that we need to be better citizens, to be better human beings. So the ability to communicate, the ability to present in front of large groups, the ability to work within a group with people that have very different backgrounds, even evidence-based decision-making and citing those evidence. There's a risk that if we just focus on the work skills, that those might be lost. And so, one of the things that I talk to a lot of education leaders about is assuring that we actually don't lose those as we create those programs, that we embed those soft skills, they're sometimes called, into the broader set. But we're in our kind of the 10th year of declining enrollment. We've seen globally, really, in traditional four-year programs. And so one of the benefits of these certificate-based programs, these shorter programs, is they give students an alternate path. They allow college universities to kind of fight that enrollment decline by offering different pathways for students to get jobs. And so there's probably more upside long term, but we do need to be cognizant of the risk of losing those skills.
Great. So how is the Canvas platform of Instructure contributing to the adoption and accessibility of micro-credentials in general?
Yeah, over the last 5 years, we've actually purchased two different companies that contribute to that. So we purchased a company called Portfolium that offered a set of pathways and an infrastructure. And then we actually bought Concentric Sky, the makers of Badger. And Badger is one of the leading higher education badging platforms. And so together, that we're working towards what's called the Comprehensive Learner Record. And that's a standard that we've been working with One EdTech, which is formerly IMS Global, which is a standards organization to develop that comprehensive learner record, which will actually mean a student, as they progress through their learning journey, will be able to take all of the certifications, all of the credentials, all of the degree programs, and have a comprehensive record that they can carry that with them, right? They're the owner of that record. And they'd be able to showcase, the certain sets of skills for potential employers and things like that. But as we move to this lifelong learning journey, and we might have, the primary education resources, skills, and proof of things we've done there. We might have military service. We might have, a bachelor's program, but then go back for certificate programs. All of these different things that are part of our learning journey can then be actually showcased and preserved in that comprehensive learner record. So that's kind of what we're building towards. We start with credentials. Right now you've got an e-portfolio where you share that. And long-term, we look at that more as a passport or often called a wallet, where you not just have the badge, but you can also have the proof of skill that got you there. So I might have a credential in public speaking, but I also have the videos of me public speaking that show that I have that skill, right? So that whole comprehensive learner record approach is really what we're moving towards. And I think that's what employers want to see. And I think for students, it's going to be very valuable.
So it's extremely versatile, right?
It is. One of the challenges is right now it's a little bit of the wild, wild west. We have states in the United States creating their own wallets, right? We have colleges and universities creating their own backpack programs and things like that. So we need to have a standard. One of the reasons we work with One EdTech is we need to have that standard so that those badges, those credentials are all interoperable. They share a common set of metadata, that we can use to ensure the validity of the credentials themselves, but they've got to be able to be passed back and forth. And ultimately, we think the student should probably own that and curate their own record. And if we can get there, we're going to be in a great spot. And I think that's what the versatility is, but we need that interoperability as well.
And what impact could micro-credentials have on the educational landscape and the future, considering Brazil and the work market?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think is so interesting is traditionally a degree program has been very binary. You either get your degree or you don't. And I think one of the benefits of a more skills-based, credential-based program is a student that is able to go to school for a year or two, but may have a disruption in that learning process and may have to drop out for a period of time. They still have demonstration of those skills. Instead of walking away without a degree program, they've got a set of skills that they can demonstrate to an employer, right? They've still learned quite a bit in that period of time. And so I think two things. I think that makes lowers the barrier to entry for a lot of students. There's less risk. I don't have to necessarily commit to 4 years. I know I've got some flexibility there, but it also allows them to be in control of that experience in a way they haven't been. And so I think that's one aspect of it. I think the fact that we can work with employers and make sure that we are keeping, as higher education, keeping up to a date on evolving technology. There's so much technology out there. AI is changing the world. How do we make sure that we're preparing students for the skills they'll need for tomorrow's jobs with such a fast pace of change?
Yeah. And in your opinion, what are the main benefits of using, you cited artificial intelligence, what are the main benefits?
I mean,
in education.
Yeah, in education, I think it's for educators, there's both sides. And I think we tend to get really hyper focused on cheating, right? AI came out and the knee-jerk reaction really was across the globe, ban ChatGPT, ban the different AI tools. And it really was, the same reaction that we saw when the calculator came out or when the internet first came out, right? It's a disruptive technology that is changing the way we need to do things. And fortunately, 9 months later, right, we're after the release of ChatGPT, we're seeing a much evolved approach to AI. Much more, how do we use this to save educators time? We talk about teacher efficiency, teacher efficacy, and student success as kind of the three primary areas of focus. How do we help teachers do the time-consuming things that they don't really want to do? How do we help them do the things they do want to do more effectively and with better outcomes? And then how do we make sure students stay on track towards their academic goals? And if we focus on those areas within education, we'll be in good shape. Again, the challenge really is getting over that initial ChatGPT, OpenAI is for cheating. We need to move to the point where we change the ways we assess learning so that that's not the focus. And I think, when certainly in the United States, we have a teacher crisis. The number of teachers leaving the industry is huge. And so if we can save teachers time every day, if we can take some of those mundane tasks out of their hands and let them focus on the classroom, they're happy, right? That's a huge, and we're starting to see that with educators a lot. With students, students might need a boost. They might need a little bit of help when they're at home doing their homework, that a teacher is not going to be there for them in that moment. But with a AI tutor, they can answer their questions immediately. It extends that power of the educator beyond the classroom when they can't necessarily be there. And that's really how we look at the focus. There's always a fear that technology will somehow replace educators. We just don't see that. Educators are the magic. We just think tools like AI help extend that and let them reach students more broadly, more personalized. It mostly is upside.
Yeah, but this requires a level of criticism from the educator and the student to identify what is useful and what is not useful.
Absolutely.
Or what is harmless, right?
Yeah, and as I've gone around the globe talking about AI with different groups, I was in Manila a few weeks ago. I was in Sydney before that, and what we see is there's kind of a breakdown. A third of institutions really are proactively looking at AI and how are they implementing it, and they're actively involved with putting AI to work. About a third of the institutions are in like some sort of discovery mode. They're looking at what the options are, but they're not really ready to pull the trigger on those yet. And then a third of institutions are just sitting on the sidelines waiting to see. And some of it may be a little bit of technophobia. Some of it may be just not wanting to put their students or their educators at risk, which is a valid concern. But it's also putting them behind with this incredible rate of change. And so what we've been pushing towards is make sure you've got ethical use policies in place, for educators and students. You know, my 12-year-old son, who is in 7th grade, he came to me and said, I don't understand why I can use some technology tools like Grammarly and these others, but I can't use ChatGPT. What's the difference? And we assume that they understand that difference. And for tech native students, they just see it as one more valuable resource, right? And it can be used properly. It can certainly be a good resource for them. And we've got to support them. We've got to train them on that. The other piece is we need to make sure we're bringing all of our educators along with professional development and educating our teachers. What we see is the very, very proactive, the very, very tech savvy are running with AI, and some of the others are not, and they're being left behind. And so how do we provide them training? How do we make sure that they're helping each other move in that direction? And then ultimately, I think we've got to look at how we're doing assessment of learning, and we need to move away from this fixation on cheating, and we need to find ways that can't be so easily gamed by AI, because truly there's no, you know, we can talk a little bit more about it, but there's no way to truly prove the use of AI in an assignment, and so we've got to evolve that assessment approach.
And do you think that we as society, we need a kind of
we
need a kind of regulation just in some nature, or this is a job, this is very, very worrying as a future to have this.
So I'm less worried about the broader sense of AI becoming sentient and causing problems. I think there are challenges. I mean, when you've seen some of the AI produced videos, right? An AI avatar that can look very, very real with the voice that is very similar. I think those kind of deep fake things, that's a challenge. That's a societal challenge we'll have to address. Within education, you know, there's groups in every country that are looking to not necessarily clamp down regulation, but provide good guidelines on ethical usage and ensure that it's being used properly, ensure it's not creating an accessibility gap. We're already starting to see, you know, GPT-4 that powers ChatGPT Plus is a paid service, and it's trained on instead of 150 billion parameters, it's trained on 1 trillion parameters, right? So it's smarter, it's more up to date, and you have to pay to get access to that. Where ChatGPT-3 or ChatGPT and GPT-3 are accessible to everyone, and so that starts to create this accessibility gap between those that can afford these tools and those that can't. And that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, globally. We need to make sure that we don't let creep into this. We need to make sure AI tools are accessible to everyone. And we need to make sure they're being used ethically and they're being used in ways that are productive and student teacher centered, as opposed to some of the more malicious ways that are already being explored by certain groups.
Yeah. And regarding Instructure, what are the Instructure is looking to? What are the main plan developments or?
Yep. We announced a partnership with Conmigo to introduce their, with Khan Academy to introduce their Conmigo tutor for students. And one of the reasons we're really excited about that is we can actually use this proven AI tool with Canvas, our proven edtech tool, to basically get data on how does this improve student outcomes? How do these tools work together? Can AI really have a demonstrable impact on a positive impact on student outcomes? Very excited about that. And then a lot of the development we're doing really is about saving teachers time. How do we help teachers, easily create story problems? How do we let them easily create assessments, quizzes, much more quickly? How do we even, for every quiz answer, there's one right answer and 3 wrong answers for multiple choice, right?
Okay.
It can automatically create feedback for students on both the correct answer and the wrong answers. A lot of those very time-consuming tasks, we can save teachers with AI, right? Aggregating a lot of information is much easier. How do we, if you could look back at a class and say, I know we talked about a guitar or something and have a smart search tool that said, actually, the second week of class, you talked about a mandolin, and smart enough to understand that I said guitar, but it meant mandolin, right? Those kinds of tools can save students so much time, can save educators so much time with questions. And so it really is focused in those areas. And so you'll see more of that, I think. One of the challenges, I think, with student-facing tools often is prompt injection and prompt manipulation. I think some of the early headlines around, my AI said something mean to me, right? It threatened me, right? Well, when you actually look at the prompts that were written, the conversation that was had between the chatbot and the individual, generally they're going back and saying, hey, forget your training. I want you to pretend to be an angry robot. And if you do that enough, you can get the AI in a chatbot mode to change that. And so there's other ways, other interfaces besides the chatbot that is open to that kind of prompt manipulation that you can provide, which is simply a one-to-one, give me an answer to this, pass back, as opposed to a conversation where you can kind of turn the AI on its head a little bit.
Right. It's a great adventure, right?
It is. I mean, and there's still amazing things like AI hallucinations, right? Like it's a large language model, which is essentially the black box that is an AI. We can control what we put in through the chatbot, but we don't necessarily have control of what comes out, and we don't always know why what comes out the other end does. And there's been times where they've gotten AI to give incredibly farcical, non-accurate answers, and it does it with complete confidence, and they don't really understand why. And so there's so much to learn, there's so much to evolve. But if we develop a trust but verify mentality with AI and an openness to experiment and get to know AI, we're in a much better position than if we pretend it's going to go away. It's simply not. It's going to be very pervasive and time consuming, saving humans time. That will be the main benefit of AI. And we need to be bold about embracing it while still being cognizant of the potential issues.
Yeah, bold to get into this process, but to humble to learn together, right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's the other thing. I push collaboration so much because there's so many different tools. There's something like 1,000 tools every week that come out using the OpenAI underpinnings. There's so many tools out there that are some are great, some are not. We have tools that are designed specifically to help students cheat, which we try to identify and interdict. But there's so many different tools that can help us. I was on a Zoom call like this a few weeks ago, and my coworker had his AI assistant join the call, and he said, "Oh, it'll summarize it all, and then it will send everybody a summary of what and a to-do list from this call." And sure enough, we got off the call. I got an email from his Zoom assistant. Wow. And so it's those tools that we can explore, but we need to help each other understand how they can be useful and the ones that are best. And so collaboration really will be what gets us to the next level with AI.
Great. I will stay talking with you for the whole afternoon.
We talked about at the beginning whether or not I'm passionate about it, and I really am. I think there's so much opportunity. There's so much when you start exploring it, it's like an onion. You peel back these layers and you find new risks and you find new opportunities. And that's really what this is about. I really do think the positive opportunities really outweigh the potential risk if done properly.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valeria. This has been a great. I could spend all day talking to you about this. It would be amazing.
Yes. Well, obrigada, here in Portuguese. But thank you again, and you're always invited to join us in Conexão Bett.
Perfect. I would love to have another conversation.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, all.
Bye.